Welcome to the Dogtor Bros, where we have an honest discussion around vet life in and out of the clinic. My name is Adam. I'm your doc of the day and your guide through this episode. I am a relief veterinarian in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm here with my closest friends from vet school.
Hey, this is Chris. I'm a GP in North Carolina.
Hey, this is Brandon. I'm a small animal internal medicine resident in Ames, Iowa.
Hey, this is Jeff. I'm a dermatology associate in Louisville, Kentucky.
And on today's episode, we're going to be hitting on some things to look for as in terms of your first job as a veterinarian. So right out of vet school, things we want to look for in that first job. But to kick us off, we're going to start with a little just fun question like we like to do. So basically, we are at our jobs a lot. As are most people. And, most of the time it's down to business, but sometimes we like to have some fun too with our coworkers who can become friends as well. So what is a fun experience that you have had with your coworkers? And I can start on this one. I can kick us off. So I lately have been on a kick of eating hot sauce. That's just like my sauce of choice for like when I bring chicken to work. And got to talking with some of my fellow employees at the clinic, mainly some of the techs, about different types of hot sauces. And somebody brought up the show Hot Ones. If you're unfamiliar, it's a show where they interview celebrities and eat hot wings that progressively get hotter and hotter and hotter. And we actually found online the box that comes with the Hot Ones sauce. And so we ordered that. And actually just yesterday, we went through all 10 sauces. JT, I know you've done this too. I don't know about you, Chris and Brandon, but yes, we went through all 10 during lunch.
At work?
At work. There was some sweat. There were some tears. I noticed in the show that things would usually take a turn around sauce number 8, and I can attest to the fact that is accurate. Number 8.
Was that Da Bomb? Did it have Da Bomb?
That is Da Bomb. Da Bomb takes a turn. It's not very good, but it is
so disgusting.
It's pretty gross. But then, that number 10 just hits you on a whole nother level. But we had a good time. It was fun overall. What about you guys? What's something fun you've done with some coworkers?
This is Jeff, and just to comment quickly, I bought this as a present to my best friend. Highly recommend, but I did it with him, and we got chicken wings. A lot of fun, a lot of regret, a lot of any medications for your stomach. I can't think of a word to save my life right now. But fun thing I was going to mention I've done with my coworkers is y'all know those little like big bike things that are like all connected and kind of drive around the city? Like everybody's kind of rolling on them, and they can have like 10-ish people.
Like the cycling trolley thing?
Yeah, like a drunken peddler, I think they're called, things like that.
Yeah.
We did that with one of my coworker Julia's birthday, I think last year or the year before, and a couple other coworkers and some other friends, and it was a blast. It was BYOB, which is unfortunate, but we like stopped at bars. It just depends on the setup for every company, but it was just a general fun time. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Hey, this is Chris. We've always had a kind of couple of different things. We had staff retreats, so we've gone to different locations. So we went skiing one year, so that was kind of cool. And then this past year, it was
casual.
Casual. And then this past year, we went to like a Airbnb up in the mountains in North Carolina, and that was cool. We went ATV riding and stuff, and then we've also done another like a full staff retreat where we went and the local baseball team they rent the practice rented out the whole field, and so we kind of had like a field day out there. So we went that. We also gone to baseball games after work. That's always been kind of cool too.
This is Brandon. I've had all kinds of different fun experiences with coworkers over the years. Stuff outside of the clinic is just more fun. I think internship is like the wildest. I don't know if Jeff can attest to that.
Yes.
Like ending up at a Waffle House at like 2 a.m. with one of my intern mates. Shout out to Sarah Schrader if she's ever listening to this. Like I have to say, some of my people that I'm still friends with today are technicians that I've had fun times with. As far as like kind of more not spontaneous, but more like planned stuff with coworkers outside of the hospital. I did a backcountry ski snowboard day with another veterinarian that I used to work with in Denver. Hope to pick that back up when I'm back in Colorado. But yeah, all kinds of stuff.
I wanted to start with this question just as a reminder that, we are busy in our jobs and it's a pretty serious environment that we work in most of the time, but, we can still have fun with the people we work with. Keeping it casual sometimes and just enjoying the more fun side of life with the people we work with every day. So again, today we're going to be talking about our first job as a veterinarian. And I kind of want to approach this as basically us where we are now, looking back to that first day on the job and that first job that we were at. So what things went well, what things we might do different, or what are things that we may look for different, knowing what we know now, looking back at that first job. So one thing we can start with is mentorship. Obviously, we've touched on it in the past in a couple of different episodes about the importance of mentorship and just having someone there to kind of help show you the ropes and be that shoulder you can lean on when things come up that may be new to you as a budding veterinarian. So thinking about mentorship, what are the biggest characteristics that you're looking for in a mentor as a new grad?
This is Jeff. I'll say, and some of these may be similar potentially to what Brandon says, but when I came out, since I went right into a rotating internship, I really was looking for when I was looking at internships, and I think I mentioned this way back in the beginning of season 1, I did do the scramble, so I didn't get immediately matched through the match program. I had to look at a bunch of programs that were interested in me and pick within 24 hours where I was going to go. But as far as mentorship, I wanted some sort of structure for didactic rounds. So something like, are we reading journals? Are we going over topics? I wanted something also very case relevant. Like, does my program provide case rounds and something where I can get like some knowledge on the clinic floor and some knowledge off the clinic floor, and what is our schedule for that so that it would make me more well-rounded. And I wanted a little bit of that. This is definitely for anybody looking for an internship specifically, but I wanted a little bit of multiple specialties. So even though at that time I was interested in surgery, spoiler, I ended up in dermatology, but I wanted to get something out of a surgery department. I wanted a program that had other specialties like internal medicine. I think we had onco, ophthalmology, radiology, ECC, and a few others, but I felt really good about the structure. So I wanted to know, are we doing a little bit of didactic stuff? And are we doing cage or case rounds so that I can also get to know these cases that I'm going to be looking at overnight? So that was what we did. And I found one that did that, I think, pretty well.
Hey, this is Brandon. I'll just second all of that. I agree. That was important for me as well. I was fortunate enough to match where my first choice was, just luck out of the draw. The way I think back, it feels like I was luck of the draw. I think that for me, going from school into internship, number one, I was just terrified when I started, just to be completely clear. But after that, it was nice because we had really good mentors in that they were patient, they were willing to teach. And they just understood that we were just fresh out of school, and they've had experience with new grads over the years being at a program where they see interns and they see new grads basically every year. So all of those things combined were like a recipe for success in like my training, as far as the mentors themselves having those qualities.
And this is Chris. So I did not go through an internship. I went straight into general practice. In the first practice that I went to, I interviewed at a couple different practices in the area. And I ended up going with the practice that I chose because they had 4 other doctors. So I was the 5th doctor, and I had a surgery interest, and their general practice surgeon, or the guy that did all the surgeries there, was willing to teach me. He was a really like great mentor, and I learned a lot from him. So that was kind of the big reason why I wanted to go to that practice. And then the other doctors there, they were varied ages. So I had some old school doctors, some kind of in the between there, and then some doctors out of school as well, or a couple years out of school. So you kind of had a range of doctors, and they were all willing to teach. I could ask them questions. So that's kind of what I picked, was a bigger practice to be able to learn from. And you're kind of hitting the ground running. There wasn't really any I didn't feel like there was a learning curve. It was just like, here, your cases, go. And so that's kind of what we did. But it worked out. And I'm glad that I went to that practice versus the other practices was just one other doctor, and it was just us two. It would have been us two if it was just doing it that way. And I liked that I had 4 other doctors to kind of pick their brains and see how they thought about a certain case. And each of them had their own kind of niche or thing that they were better at. So it was a good learning experience from that, which is definitely what I liked. And did you say things that you would do differently, Adam, as well?
Yeah, you can throw that in there. Yeah.
Things that I would do differently if I had to pick an ideal place was pick one with a different schedule. And again, everything's about work-life balance now, but that schedule was a rotating weekend shift schedule. And where I'm at now, I wouldn't like doing that schedule, but it worked for what I was looking for then, and kind of JT loves pros and cons lists. So it kind of made sense for me to go there for the mentorship, knowing that the schedule wasn't my ideal situation. But again, that's, if I could pick it perfectly, I would have had the better schedule as well, plus the mentorship. But you kind of have to pick and choose when you're getting out of school as well.
Yeah, I like that we kind of had differing perspectives here with JT and Brandon going into an internship. Obviously, going into an internship, a rotating internship, especially, you're going to have a lot of different mentors in a lot of different fields, and that can be advantageous to you because you're learning from multiple different people, obviously in different fields, but you may learn better from one person compared to the other. You just may learn from them better. So it's nice to have that rotation of mentors, essentially. And with you, Chris, it sounds like you really focused on finding a clinic that was going to fit your niche, what you wanted to do, looking at somebody with surgery, which I think is great. And I encourage any new grad to do that. Like, if you want to focus in surgery, find a surgeon. If you want to focus more on the internal medicine side, or more holistic, or more ER, or whatever it is, find a vet who's kind of more so in that niche. And then also, you bring up a good point, Chris, finding a practice that has multiple doctors, because I have heard those stories of veterinarians who graduate, they go work at a clinic at a single doctor practice. That doctor says, all right, I'm on vacation, and they're out, and then you as a new grad are there by yourself. Luckily, that didn't happen to any of us, but I have heard those stories, and I think, I speak for the vast majority of new grad vet students, that would be terrifying, coming right out of school, running the practice. So I think those were all good points. For me personally, I kind of lucked into the mentor I had. He was great. He worked very closely with me. He was a fantastic doctor, and he really worked well with me, and I learned a ton from him. If I could go back and do things a little bit different, I would probably vet my mentor a little more. Like, I would maybe look around at different clinics, and I would meet with the doctor that I would be working closely with, And you can almost do it as like a little interview from you to them too, to kind of learn how they practice and are they doing the things that I want to do, and are they going to be a good teacher to me. So that's probably what I would do if I could do something different, would be go back and just kind of meet with several different potential mentors and kind of vet them as well, and see what would work best for me. Moving on, we talked about this. So we talked about this a little bit in our episode with Willie, or one of our episodes with Willie, when we talked about finances. But benefits is a big one. Obviously, when it comes to contracts or new contracts, when you're coming out of school, that salary, I mean, that's the first thing you see, right? Like that's the first thing that jumps off the page to you is how much am I going to be making? But benefits can play a vital role in your overall well-being as well. And a lot of the shift that we've had in the veterinary field, I mean, you have first years and second years who are signing contracts to go work for a practice right out of school, which is crazy. I mean, they still got 4 years of school. But, if you have a contract from a clinic that's waving a sign-on bonus in your face saying, we'll give this to you now, that can be really tempting. And you may see that number, just the salary, and say, hey, that sounds good, coming right out of school. But before you jump into those things, there may be other things you need to look into. So what are some specific benefits that you feel that new grads should look at when evaluating potential contracts?
This is Jeff, and I think you made a really good point. I do think we touched on a little bit in one of Willie's episodes, but it bears repeating to look at your contract and see things like more than the salary. So, are your benefits helping you? Is your company matching your 401k? How much of that contribution? Because that is your future and your retirement. Are they providing you with a reasonable amount of PTO time? Are you expected to work on holidays? Are your medical benefits good? I have friends who've looked at how much their medical insurance is going to cost and have decided to go in a different direction based on their situation because it's too expensive. Or is it really, really good in that maybe outweighs the fact that your salary is not as high as you thought it would be? So keep all those things in consideration, especially for your mental health. Does it make sense? If are you working 4 days a week and you get your holidays, or are you expected to work every other weekend? What makes sense for your situation? Look at the full picture, including sign-on bonus. Do you have to pay back that sign-on bonus? Do you have to pay it back in a year? Look at those things. Seek out help if you need somebody to look over your contract, because a lot of them are in legal wording. So whether that be a legal professional, an accountant, Willie Badeau from our other podcasts, you can go and pay him and he'll take a look for you. Make sure you read through the whole thing, do your due diligence, and don't feel pressured to ask questions and see what else they can do for you.
This is Chris. Pretty much, ditto what JT said. You're looking at PTO is a big thing. I don't know if everyone's in a different stage of life, but at the place where I was at, I was looking to work more to kind of get more experience, and then knowing that I'll try to figure out how to get more time off down the road. But again, everyone's got a different thing, but PTO is a big thing, or your work schedule. Like I said, I didn't like the weekend schedule. Like now I wouldn't like it because I was working 2 out of every 3 weekends with kids and wanting to go to their sports. It would be cutting into that time frame at this point. So that's not at this point in my life where I'd want to do that consistently. Maybe if it was once every 6 weeks or something like that, then different story. But again, it's for you to decide on it. Just the amount that you get paid isn't just the only thing that you have to worry about. It's insurance. Insurance is a big thing, trying to figure out if it makes sense or how much your insurance is going to cost you, and that's going to affect your end of your paycheck there. So those are all big things to figure out. And contract negotiation, that's never never fun either. And if you need to get a lawyer, get one or get someone to do it. They can be the bad guys for you. And that way, if you don't like negotiating, not everyone does. That's not, I mean, I don't like doing it. You can get a lawyer and that's what they're paid to do, is negotiate the contract for you and get what you want. It kind of sounds crazy to do that coming out of school, but I would definitely recommend it.
This is Brandon. Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone has said at this point. I think in hindsight for me, when you're first coming out, you don't realize how much you can ask for. I guess that's one thing. Like, and to be frank, like there's even things where I just recently signed at a clinic and I'm like, well, maybe it would have been nice to, even though we talked about this in person, it might be nice to get this in writing and in the contract, like your schedule, like your benefits. I feel like corporate clinics are going to have a little bit more of a standard contract that they probably give to everyone, and then you can kind of add to that or make requests to that as you see fit. And the worst thing they're going to say is no. So the big thing I would say is, after all of this, don't be afraid to ask for things that you want. You shouldn't feel bad for trying to get the best for yourself. At the end of the day, once a contract's signed, you're going to have to deal with that for as long as it lasts or until it's renegotiated.
This is Jeff. And one other thing I was going to point out that I like that you said, Chris. I've read from finance books, like when you're negotiating, especially if you decide that an attorney is helpful, keep in mind that the best time for you to negotiate things at your job is when you are applying to the job. Like when you're in the process of getting it is the best time for you to negotiate what you want and get it in writing. In addition, that's also the best time if there's equipment that's really important to you that you're really good at using. Like if you want dental x-rays, but your practice doesn't have them, you can get that in writing in your contract if they verbally agree to it. If there's other things that are very important to you at that time, like, oh, I wish we had a mini ultrasound unit so I can do a fast scan of the abdomen or collect urine via cysto with an ultrasound and make that a service that I'm really good at. If there's something you're really good at, like I want a cryo unit, whatever it is, that's a great time to get it in writing.
Absolutely. I think you all make great points. The biggest thing I have to add, which it's kind of everything you're saying, is just seek help. Talk to somebody when you get those contracts to review it for you. In terms of benefits, you've been a student your whole life at that point. So being out in the real world, being your first real job, you may not know what specific benefits you need or what's going to benefit your lifestyle the best. So meet with somebody who is an expert in that field and can talk to you and ask you the questions that are kind of going to steer you towards what you need to look for in that contract. And help you with negotiations as needed. I remember when Allison, my wife, she graduated a year before me and she stayed down in vet school. We got married that year. And we were up one night before she was applying for jobs, Googling average salary of a veterinarian, because we just didn't know. I mean, they don't cover this stuff in vet school, in terms of salaries and benefits and that sort of thing. So talk to somebody who knows these things and can help you with these contracts and help you know your worth and what you need to be asking for and what's going to best suit you. And that kind of moves us into our next topic. So in terms of just kind of general expectations that we have for the clinic or for our schedule, what are some kind of realistic expectations that you could have going into your first job? That could be, like wanting to focus more so in surgeries or not wanting to work weekends or getting off on time. Like, what are some things that you guys looked for? And what are some realistic expectations that you can have going into that first job?
This is Jeff. I think it was difficult coming from running into an internship because our contracts were pretty tight. Like they weren't interested in much negotiation. I did ask for more money and they were like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. My bad. Like, I'll take my 30,000 and it's fine. Cause I needed the stepping stone. What was I going to do? But they were also invested at that point. So they took me. It was fine. Nothing bad happened. But I think I also asked for more time off and I got told no. And I think I asked for a couple of other small things and I got a lot of LOL, heart emoji, no. But the point is, that gave me the stepping stone that I needed to continue to ask that for other jobs where they have said yes to things that I was looking for that I really appreciated. So when I moved on to GP, I got told yes a lot. When I got to my current job in dermatology, past residency, there's a lot of things change and you move to different businesses and sometimes you get told yes. But the point is, if there's something that's really important to you, you should still ask for it. And how that company reacts is something that you should take note of. So if they're supportive of you and really want to push you forward and you deliver on whatever it is you're asking for, like I said, if you're asking for an ultrasound so you can do more cystocentesis by ultrasounds because you love that, and you're bringing in more business because that's a service that you're offering, that really shows and is really something that you can take to the company when you're asking for something else. So that was one thing that was really helpful for me.
This is Brandon. With internship, I was not ballsy enough to ask for anything like Jeff was. I just kind of just said, okay, this is it. So be it.
I mean, it didn't work.
Yeah. I applaud you for asking though. I mean, especially when they're looking for they're like with the scramble, they're desperate too. So why not ask? But anyway, when I first started after internship, so I kind of think of my first job after internship as like my almost real first job. Internship is kind of this weird mix of I'm kind of in school, but I'm also a doctor, is the way I kind of mentally put it together in my head. But for GP, I worked at a 3-doctor practice. And when you're in a 3-doctor practice or a 2-doctor practice, or if you're the only doctor in a practice, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything. So in that practice, I didn't really have much surgical experience. I was hoping to get some. Mentorship wasn't exactly what I thought it would be while I was there. And then I moved on to a larger practice I was one of like 12 GPs. And I was just like, I don't really like surgery. And fortunately, they had enough people that did surgery. They had enough people that did dentistry. I could just focus on stuff that more related to internal medicine, which kind of ended up having me be where I am now as a resident. But I had different expectations for each hospital. The smaller hospital, everyone's going to do a little bit of everything. A dental's not going to wait a month just because I'm not doing dentals. They're going to train me to do that stuff, even if it's not my favorite. Whereas at my other hospital, fortunately, they had people really well set up in their scheduling to do surgeries and dental procedures and other things at the time. And I could focus more on those patients that needed more medical management, like a diabetic or a dog or a cat with kidney disease or something else. So every hospital is going to be a little different. And if you have this like vision of what you want when you go into practice, even if it's right out of school, just kind of think about that as you're applying for jobs, and don't be afraid to ask about it.
This is Chris. So expectation wise too, I think you're going to have to realize it's going to suck the first little bit while you're in school, and not in a bad way, but you're just going to have to you're not going to know the cases that quickly. You're not going to be able to come up with a game plan that fast. You're going to get slightly overwhelmed, and it's okay. That's normal. And I think a lot of people try to expect, we're like, I'm fresh out of school, I should know everything. And I just passed the boards, I know everything. It's like, it's there. It's just your thought process and how quickly you're going to be able to apply it isn't there. And that's totally fine. So I think also set the expectations, like, you're still new and you're still learning and it's scary, but you're going to be fine. Like just realize that. That's a big thing. I think I wish more vets heard is like, it's going to be okay. Like you're going to figure it out. Like if you get overwhelmed, okay, take a deep breath and then figure out what you need to do for the case. I think that's another thing too. And I know I always say work-life balance too. You're going to stay later early on in your cases. And I mean, you shouldn't be staying extremely late or way overworked or doing things there. And we can get into that later of other things. But like, if you don't get out on time for work because you're figuring something out, like that's normal and that's okay too. Like, again, go home when you can go home and definitely take advantage of it. And that's not what I'm trying to say is overwork yourself, but definitely like know that you're not going to get things this quickly. And the doctor that's been there for years seems to get out on time all the time and does things quickly. It's like, oh yeah, they've been doing it for X amount of years. So just also know that expectation, like don't compare yourself to the other doctors in the practice and in trying to, oh, I'm going to be better. Like just, you're in a team, you're going to learn, you're going to figure it out.
I like what you said there because having realistic expectations for yourself. I mean, coming right out of school, you have all the knowledge, but now it's learning how to implement it and put it into practice. So it's different, it's the same but different, as far as expectations on things that you may want, just like JT and Brandon said, basically, if you don't ask, the answer is no. So you can at least ask. They may say no. You may say, I don't want to work any weekends. And then they say, well, that's too bad. You're going to work every other weekend. And then at that point, it's up to you to say, okay, I'll do that. Or, well, I'm going to look around and see what other options I have. So at least having the fortitude to stand up for yourself and to ask for the things that you want within reason, and then having the expectation that they may say no, and you may have to come to a compromise. So just kind of in closing here, our last little question, and again, with where you're at now, thinking back to that first day on the job as a new veterinarian, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice on your very first day as a licensed vet, what would it be?
This is Jeff. I'll say I would go back and tell myself, give yourself some grace. This is going to be as hard as you think it's going to be, and it's going to be fine. Stay the course.
This is Chris, and pretty similar to JT is you got this. Take a deep breath and go get them. Like that's just really, it don't need to make it more complicated. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better than Jeff. I mean, it's just where I am now is amazing. I'm approaching the end of this 3-year-long residency journey, and I'm going to be in a really good position when I finish and start my new job. And first year out of vet school me would have never really dreamed of that. So just stay the course. You're going to mess up. It's going to be hard, but you're going to make it through it.
Yeah, love it. Just like all you guys said, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, but that's how we learn and grow. It does get easier as you go. It doesn't get easy, but it gets easier. And then the other thing I would say is don't be scared to take risks and follow your dreams. If you are starting to feel yourself pulled in one specific direction, go for it and see where it leads. You can always change direction again if you need to. But yeah, so that brings us to the end here. So thank you so much for listening to the Dogtor Bros. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or anywhere you listen to podcasts. It would also help us out if you could share this episode with others who may be interested in today's topic. You can also tell us what you want to hear. You can drop suggestions in the comments or shoot us an email at thedogtorbros@gmail.com or DM us at thedogtorbros on Instagram. You can also reach me personally on Instagram at Dr. Adam DVM. That's DRADAM DVM.
And this is Chris. You can reach me on Instagram at Dr.Chris Hernandez. That's Dr.Chris Hernandez.
This is Brandon. You can reach me on Instagram at DogtorMasonIM.
And this is Jeff. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at DermDrJeff, DermDogtorJeff.